Each evening, Thomas lingered quietly at the doorway, watching without being seen. Maria's voice carried through the room, flowing from French verbs to Arabic letters, from Spanish greetings to Chinese characters. Ethan's laughter echoed between the walls, his little hands clapping as he pieced together new words, his confidence growing with every lesson. Thomas's chest tightened with something he hadn't felt in years. His son wasn't the timid boy he thought he knew. No, Ethan was radiant, a flower opening at last, and Maria, this woman he once regarded as just a servant, was the sunlight coaxing him to bloom. But the world outside their home wasn't as gentle. At a family gathering, whispers turned into mocking laughter. "How shameful," one relative sneered. "Depending on the maid to raise your son." The words pierced him like knives. For a flicker of a moment, Thomas considered ending her lessons. His pride demanded it. Then Ethan, eyes glowing, stood tall and greeted them in flawless French, followed by a playful phrase in Spanish. The laughter died instantly, but Thomas understood in that moment. His relatives were blind. They measured wealth in gold and reputation, but real wealth was here, in the courage to honor kindness, no matter where it came from. The very next morning, Thomas did something he never thought he would. He stepped into the study, set his briefcase down, and sat beside his son. "Teach me, too," he said softly. Maria froze, her eyes wide, her lips trembling as tears threatened to spill. Ethan clapped his hands, overjoyed. The air shifted that day. The invisible barrier between master and servant dissolved. They weren't divided anymore. They were bound by curiosity, by knowledge, by love for learning. Weeks turned into months, and their household transformed. Maria became more than a maid. She was Ethan's teacher, Thomas's guide, the very soul of the home. Ethan flourished, speaking fluently in 5 languages before his 10th birthday. And Thomas, humbled and changed, began to see the world differently. He funded schools in Maria's village, ensuring children there would never have to abandon their dreams the way she once had. Years later, in a packed auditorium, Ethan stood before a crowd, his voice steady and bright as he spoke in 5 languages. But before he ended, he turned to Maria, tears shining in his own eyes, and called her by the title she had long deserved, "My second mother." Thomas wept openly, his heart unburdened at last. In Maria's quiet devotion, he had discovered a truth greater than any fortune. The greatest wealth is not power or possessions, but love, knowledge, and the humility to see greatness where the world overlooks it. "Dad, look!" Ethan's little voice rang out with excitement. Thomas stopped mid-step, his leather shoes halting against the marble. He wasn't supposed to be home this early. The house was usually quiet at this hour, cold and orderly. But now, words, strange and rolling, sharp and soft, were tumbling from the study. Spanish, French, Arabic, something else he couldn't place. He pushed the door open a fraction, his briefcase swinging against his leg. Inside, Maria, the maid he had hardly spoken to beyond schedules and tasks, stood before his son with a light in her eyes he had never seen. Her hands moved gracefully, her voice steady and warm as she repeated phrases in 5 different languages. Ethan mimicked her, his face alive with laughter, his small hands clapping each time he got it right. Thomas's chest tightened. He had seen his boy quiet at the dinner table, withdrawn even in the presence of tutors and expensive toys. Yet here he was, glowing, repeating words with pride, eager for the next. At first, Thomas bristled. Who gave her permission to cross this line? But then Ethan turned, eyes wide and proud, pointing at a little paper flag Maria had drawn. "Dad, I can say it in French." His voice was bright, unafraid. Thomas leaned into the doorframe, unseen. He watched Maria clap for his son, her smile unguarded, her face filled with a tenderness money could never buy. For years, he had built walls, strict rules, exact schedules, measured success. Tutors had come and gone. None of them had unlocked this spark. But Maria, the woman who spent her days cleaning and cooking in silence, had given his son something no wealth could purchase: belief. In that moment, Thomas's anger slipped away, replaced by something else he hadn't felt in years: gratitude. He realized it wasn't just about languages. It was about a woman who carried inside her a gift she had buried, and who chose to pour it into his child when no one was watching. He pressed a hand to his eyes, covering the tears that threatened to spill. For the first time in his life, the man who thought he owned everything understood what it meant to be truly rich.